introduction. Thanks everyone for being here tonight. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the trends that we are seeing going forward to the digital world, and that is reconstructing reality. VR is what most of people heard, that it's going to change the world. And it's what we see in sci-fi movie, and it's what many of our kids play on their laptop or their iPhones. And that's what we think of when we think of what can we possibly do bigger next. And there are many, many technical challenges. I will not go into all the detail, but I want to kind of give you a sense of what's going on in our field, since I work in both VR and robotics. So I'm going to talk about reconstructing reality, going from the physical world that we live in to the virtual reality itself. Now, virtual reality is a concept that actually existed way back in the 60s. It was first introduced as the ultimate display. It's the display that's going to give you a sensory feeling and experiences like you are actually there when you are actually not there. And so this is through visual, it's through your auditory experience, it's through your haptic, that means touch, enabled experience. Now, VR actually has been used very widely through many things that we actually live with. For example, VR is often used as a walkthrough system to visualize what your future dream home will be like. And it could be used also as a way of design quickly through VR to see what a power plant might look like, what a submarine might look like, what a Boeing 737 might look like. Right. It cannot test the sensor, but that's a separate story. That's where we need to be next. VR is also used in medical simulations and medical robot, prototyping medical robot. One of the projects that we have worked on is this idea of inserting catheter through your vessel and get to wherever it needs to go to deliver chemotherapy to where the tumor is located. So you have a very target treatment and minimize the damage that you would do to the nearby tissue. To do that, you need to kind of practice how would the physician manipulate these catheter as it enter into your blood vessel. And so there are VR systems that will allow you to practice, and that would allow the surgeon to actually try to maneuver these kind of devices. There are also VR systems that allow you to visualizing what was going on and perform surgery ahead of the time. Now, we are in DC area. One of the big concept here around many of the Army and Navy and DoD agency is the idea of a smart city. Can we equip the city that we live in with lots of sensors? And then can we be able to kind of visualize and monitor and be able to reconstruct the cities before we get there, for mission rehearsal, for strategic planning, and then can we actually connect people better as we move forward to the future that you no longer need to drive, the car will drive itself for you. And so this idea of the idea of building virtual cityscape for these what's called the Mecca City is the roadmap for the future. And so this is another area where there's a lot of excitement. People who are in different countries have also been looking at, can we use VR for architectural analysis? So for example, there are millions of people who do Hajj pilgrimage at Mecca every year. A few years ago, there were some disasters, and they were trying to figure out how can they redesign the bridges before it gets to Mecca to actually help alleviate some of these problems. And so this is where the video collections of what happened there, along with the use of VR, can really help redesigning the future architecture and the bridges and roads for us. In addition to that, VR can also be used to design, for example, our subway systems. DC has very good subway systems. but can we make it even better? Can we improve the experience? Can we improve the efficiency? So this is definitely...
Use the priority proxy to efficiently disembark while the boarding agents in turn...
So this is a video that we have developed that kind of show you where we actually are using this VR-like experience, trying to simulate human behavior, trying to simulate social protocol, and then we also use it to decide how we should, how many exits should we plan.
The way into the crowd. We use trail proxies to represent police authority. The protesters, in deference
another area where
are unwilling to become
simulation and modeling in VR environment can be used is controlling mobs. Right. So this is a good way of sort of kind of see how people might react against authorities. So we try to capture the crowd, trying to simulate them, and well, this car is obviously trying to escape from the crowds. But you get an idea of what the potential might be out there. You might also see emerging work coming out from the combination of a video surveillance and combined with the recreation of virtual reality. You will see video everywhere. And the emerging work out there in computer vision is to capture these videos and then trying to predict what might happen. Well, it can do even more. If we can capture these human behavior, we can come up with a model. We can then also start to trying to create these models in a virtual environment and to predict under different kind of scenario how people might react. So crowd simulations, it can be also used combined with the VR environment for crowd analysis, for detecting abnormality, and hopefully detecting potential threat. So other than mobs and threats, they're actually real use in scientific discovery other than medicine, and that is scientific explorations. At one of my former institutions at University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, we have developed something called the NanoManipulator. What this does is it actually practically bring these very, very, very small things that you can't see, that you can only visualize them or see them in the microscope, but roll them up to 10 to the power 6, basically a million times bigger, so that you can see them and you can feel them and you can feel the surface forces. This has been used to discover nanocarbon tubes. It has been used to perform scientific explorations and experiments that otherwise would not have been possible. But most of us actually have experienced some sort of VR, we just don't know, other than in theme park. If you have been lucky enough to try the flight simulator, that is a VR experience. If you have ever tried to drive a driving simulator, that is a VR experience. And so some of these are just sort of a few examples of VR systems that have already helped us train our pilots, trying to determine the effect of alcohol and drugs on drivers. And then VR systems have also been used now for therapy, for treating fears, for rehab. So these are just a few examples where VR has already impacted us. And as we go forward to the future, we might also think about share social experiences through the glasses that we wear. So cyber travel in real time, in space and time, cross space and cross time. So imagine that you may not like travel, but your kids do. Wherever they go, they can wear the Google glasses and they can share with you what they are experiencing or what they are visualizing. How cool would that be? And this was, in fact, the dream of the Facebook founder, and that's Mark Zuckerberg, when he acquired Oculus VR, thinking Facebook is not just a social media. Facebook is a platform for sharing experiences. And through VR, you can actually share experiences of your loved one who are at different places. It will also allow us to share cyber travel in space and time back to when that, centuries ago, what it's like to see a culture site. This is actually a virtual Pompeii. That was the work done at University of Geneva. So given all those possibilities, what are some of the important problems and challenges? Well, there are a long list of them. And for example, many people over the year has been looking at, how do I track people? How do we track them as they move in a virtual environment? How do we make sure the display looks great and beautiful? How do we get this sense of touch to be able to touch something that's virtual, but just like you would have touch as they are real in the physical world? And what about audio? What about sound? What about the music? And one of the most important things most people don't think about is VR is all great, but the power of VR lies in the fact that you can actually bring reality into the virtual world. So how do we capture the real world and bring it into the virtual world? And this is really critical. How do we capture and transcend the physical and the virtual divide? And so this is what I was going to talk a little bit about, just kind of show you a few examples. I'm not going to go into all the detail, but just to help you imagine, what's the world we live in and what kind of data we actually collect? Is this possible? Can we actually reconstruct the physical world that we live in? Well, sure we can. Number one, how many of you don't have a smartphone? 1, 2, and you don't have a camera either. You may have one. You have one. All right. So there is basically almost 0 person in this room has no smartphone or no camera. If you have a smartphone or you have a camera, you can take pictures. That's why there are thousands, actually millions and millions of pictures on the web. The picture that we take, that's data. That's capturing the real world. What about video recorders? All those of you who have smartphones also have video recorders. Right. So video record the world. It goes beyond images. It also record audio. What other things do we capture? Audio recordings, music. Most people don't think about it. Medical data. Our CT scan, our MRI, our ultrasounds, our patient records, all these are data. They are physical data about you. You as a human, you as an individual. And there are more data out there that are sensor data, like traffic data, camera videos, and many other data like documents, social media, web. So these are just a few examples. And there are also devices out there that can scan the airport devices. Most of us travel. When we go through that, you have been captured in the airport scanner. So that's data. That's us. So there are all these different kinds of data. And in fact, there is a huge diversity of data representation and format. Either it's 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional, undimensional, audio versus pictures, images, text, numbers, abstract data that's on the web. There's a huge volume of data. And trying to go from data to recreating the physical world is part of the challenge. And the reason is because often these data are noisy, they are not accurate, they have uncertainty, they have measuring errors, or they are incomplete. And so the challenge has been, the technical challenge has been, how do we then translate these data into the virtual reality? And that's where the research challenge has lied. At least in the world I live in, I'm a computer scientist. I'm also kind of engineers. So just kind of quickly showcase a few examples of these physical world I'm talking about so you can get a better sense of what I'm talking about in terms of reconstructing reality. Soft body. We are soft body. We are soft-articulated bodies. So the case study that I'm going to show you and share with you is actually work that I have done with my PhD students. And this really focused on prostate cancer. Prostate cancer is the second leading cause of a cancer-related death for men in the US. And they're, as common as it is, most of people don't know they have it because you really have to kind of go beyond the routine standard test. There is really no standard and routine screening test, really. Even some of these blood tests that you have done, those antigen tests are not really that accurate. You really have to do biopsy. So often when people realize that they have prostate, it's very late in the stage. And once you have a prostate, a treatment option is really relatively limited. It's either radiotherapy or surgery. And so the question here is, can we do better? Well, what we have proposed is a more proactive health monitoring system to use patient-specific tissue parameters. So how do we get patient-specific tissue parameter? That is the tissue property specific to you and you only, individually. So you want these patient-specific data. How do we get that? Well, if you get any kind of medical images, like CT images, which is relatively commonly acquired in the clinic, you can use those CT images to figure out what the tissue property is of you as a patient. And I won't go into the detail how we do it. And so what we have done here is to take CT images, automatically figuring out what the tissue property of that patient will be. And then we use essentially large-scale statistical data to compare where the patient tissue property is related to other patients. And we are able to achieve T-stage classification. T-stage is essentially a staging system used by, for cancer, stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, and so on. We were able to achieve a fairly good, accurate classification, about 91%, if we also know the age of the patient. 89% if we don't know. Now, that's pretty good, but is it good enough? T-stage is really kind of the same kind of data the physician would tell you, and physician is not perfect. So it's kind of good that you can do as well as a doctor who is not perfect. We want to do better than a doctor, right? We have a computer who's doing the work for us. So we compare the result against the Gleason score. The Gleason score is the score reporting from the biopsy results. This is regarded as the golden standard. So how do we do when we compare to the biopsy result? Well, we were able to achieve up to 88% of accuracy with age information and 81% without. I would say this is pretty good, because who would like to do a biopsy if they can avoid it? So that is the benefit of having something like this, where you can actually use it to actually do early detection and early prevention. Now you're going to say, okay, this is all very good. So where is the VR? Well, we can actually recreate these organs based on these images that we collect. And then you can perform these experiments at home. No, just kidding. You all have dinner already. So I'm glad I'm showing you the drop. But literally, you can see healthy versus unhealthy prostate as you try to poke it and as you're trying to use that for practice by the surgeons or the physician. We can also apply this to the video. So what you see here are reconstructions of heart directly from cardio ultrasound. Now, my joke is it's not limited only to the video and images. We can also use it on tennis ball. So you can determine when your daughter should throw away that tennis ball or not. Because you can say, let's take a real video test. This one needs to go, this one can stay. No, this is just a joke. But really, this kind of ability using computer analysis to be able to analyze the video and images to determine how soft, how hard a soft body could be, can be really useful, has a lot of potential use. One of the things as a woman, I actually don't like shopping, but yeah, I don't like shopping. And the reason is I keep putting on weight. And trying clothes is a very painful experience for me. And usually, most of us, I don't know, if you're like me, online shopping is the way to go. You go on there, you click, 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 this one looks good. Well, then you buy it and you deliver to your house and you try it on and go, doesn't work. How can we improve that experience? I actually talked to Amazon people. It's not just the clothes. One of our next project is shoes, because I have so much trouble buying shoes. Anyone have done shopping online for shoes out of curiosity? A few? So what happened, most of you?
They never fit.
They never fit, right? Yes, exactly. They never fit. Even they look good on the picture on the web, they never fit well. So when we go shopping, we don't want to buy something that looks good. We want something that looks good, but also look good on us. So we have to try. And so the idea here was, it has been going on for a long while. It has been going on since the 90s. There is this idea that we can have people go into some clothing store and outpost and have them stand there just like we go through the airport, do a body scan. We reconstruct the body, then we have the clothes being fitted on the 3D capture body, except most of us are not going to get our image or our body back from the airport. And most of us are not going to go to some clothing store because they are all shutting down. They are not becoming functional. And so where do you shop? I mean, I don't know if you worry. I do, because all my favorite stores are being closed one by one. How do we go shopping anymore? Even if you like shopping, I don't like shopping. So this is a real problem. This is going to become a problem that's going to become even more acute, or as we get put on weight, or our metabolism goes down, either you go to a lot of gyms, or you think about how do you do virtual shopping. And so our idea here is to think about a different alternative. We all have iPhone. We all have smartphone. If you don't have a phone, you have camera. Can we take a picture of us, click on some clothes or garments, pieces that we like on the web, and then just say, how would this piece look on the picture of me? And this is basically the idea. Here, we have this model right here on the left. This is a fashion model wearing a nice multicolored dress. To its right, it's the reconstructed model wearing the same clothes right here. So that's the virtual version. Then what really the power is here is that you can have the clothes on this model sit down on a chair, and you can see how that clothes might fit on that model, a virtual model. The real power is the shopping experience I was talking about. Is now we have a different person, a different lady, a consumer, a shopper, who just took a picture of her and say, okay, how would that dress look on me? And this is the end result. Okay, so this, by the way, is not image pasting, because we actually do and can use these kind of technology to do virtual try-on. So you can actually see how the clothes might move and how it might look on you. In addition to that, we are moving toward a society of automations. We are going to have one day robot folding clothes for you. You don't want the robot to not be able to understand what's the piece of clothes that they are folding, what material it is, how gentle they need to fold it. You need to be able to determine what material it is. So we have been also looking at, can we automatically extract the tissue, the fabric properties of these garments. So you probably already kind of see there's connection here. And that is, we are extracting the physical characteristic of these soft body. Either it's human body, either it's clothing, either it's dress, a pants, a shirt, doesn't matter. They have material property associated with them. And can we automatically extract that from images and videos? And this is sort of kind of where we are going. We are actually acquiring real physical property of a real physical object. So if the robot had the intelligence, the robot would know how to handle a piece of garment better. And as I already mentioned, our vision is we can take any picture. We can have a fashion model wearing any kind of garment and show how that would look on anybody, any consumer and models. So this is a video kind of demonstrating how this approach and technique actually work. This is some of our recent work. So images on the left, reconstruct the body in the middle, and the virtual one on the right. And these are different reconstructions, different results. And you can see that these are fairly good, that you can actually even transfer to different body height. The most important thing is we actually reconstruct 3D model. So you can have the person moving the leg, kicking the feet, and we'll be able to see how the clothes will flow on them, and how well it might fit. So here are just simply more results that I was showing you earlier. You have the model walking, you have actually a person walking down the street. We actually take that skirt that you see on the left, put it on her. This is a close-up look. We actually even change the color. We can show you there is a wind blow. So you can see that when the wind blows, the skirt actually flop a little bit on the images. So you literally can actually see how the skirt might look under different wind condition, different lighting condition, different weather condition. And this is the other example I was showing you earlier of a lady of different body build and how the clothes might virtually try on her using these computer simulations and virtual reality tools. And this is an example of someone who was on the beach side, really enjoying themselves. Meanwhile, the husband or the boyfriend was buying the clothes for her because he saw she was looking at it. And by just using a technique like this, he can surprise her and show her how that skirt might look when they go out next time to the beach together. So same kind of top, but you can actually try on different skirt. So these are sort of the basic idea of what the virtual try-on can do for you. But I also want to say that, again, the technology itself, it's not limited to picture. It can actually work for videos. So we have done the same work using videos, and we are being able to recover all different kind of fabric material properties and so on. I'm just going to sort of show you. So one is capture, and the other one is virtual. And I don't know, for those of you who sit in the back, if you can tell which one is which. Well, this is the real on the left, and that's the one that was simulated on the right. So we can actually show you how different fabric might look on the same body. So in fact, you can see how a skirt of different fabric material might actually look. That will also enable you to buy different garment with different kind of fabric. And you may like one better than the other. We have also done the same kind of work, same kind of approach actually for smart city. And I'm just going to show you very quickly, because I realize I'm kind of running out of time here. So we're living a world of many people, and tracking people are sort of something that's really important for safety and surveillance. So what we just did here is we took a surveillance video. We were able to extract the trajectories of people walking through a different area. We can use that to kind of simulate what a virtual train station might look like with real people walking around. Now, that of course is kind of cool, that you can just recreate a virtual environment using videos. But the real power comes is, what if I put some Christmas tree there? What if I put some statue there? What if this is the holiday? How would the people move differently? Now, another possibility of use of such technology is that, again, you can use the same kind of technique using video of people crossing the street. You can extract their trajectory, and you can recreate the same scenarios. You can have people crossing the same street. This video was taken off the YouTube, just on the web. And now we are able to recreate a scenario of what you saw in the video. Now we can even do something more. We can ask the question, what if there is an explosion? What would have happened? So the ability of a VR is to answer the what if questions. Once you are able to bring in the physical world into your virtual world. You can do the same for the traffic as well. And so I'm just going to show this really quickly. This is actually a traffic reconstruction of a highway with vehicle flowing through the city. And again, everything that you see here are reconstructed using whatever input data that we have. And It allows you to be able to visualize what a highway scenario look like, what the traffic look like. You can also be tethered onto any driver's dashboard, so you can see what's going on as a driver, or you can change your view. And of course, this is really great for kids for playing video games, right? But it's also great for training, really, for people who want to train to get on, to drive a car. This provides a way, just like I mentioned earlier, driving simulator experience, except it's going to be much more immersive. And it's going to be more realistic, because essentially you are taking directly from sensor data, traffic sensor data, that will reflect the real world traffic conditions. One of the things that we've been kind of working on next is that once we are able to recreate these virtual simulated traffic scenario, what can we do next? So the next thing that we have been looking at is the idea of what if we can simulate all these vehicle and car? Can we then use it to simulate accident? Because all the existing autonomous cars are learning directly from real drivers. No real driver will put themselves in dangers. So what they're gonna have is all these good driving scenarios. Guess what? You don't learn how to deal with unexpected events unless you have been taught how to deal with unexpected events like accident. So the only way to get those kind of data, other than having real driver crashing into these events, is to create it through simulations. So we have been looking at using simulation to create accident, so that we can use these simulated accident to train these autonomous vehicles. So you want not just your car know how to drive well, you also want your car to know how can it handle unexpected events. Now, lastly, as a way of concluding, I just want to kind of show you that visual information is not the only thing. One of the things that we have been also looking at is actually audio. How can we also capture audios, and also how can we use image representation to create audio automatically? So one of the things that we have been looking at was, this is a picture of a Lombard Street, and we have ability to analyze images to recreate these kind of virtual environment, so that we can actually have the ball rolling down a Lombard Street. Of course, you don't want to do this in the real life, but it kind of show you from a photograph, we can actually create a virtual Lombard Street where you can actually play pinball down a Lombard Street. Now, going forward, what we want to do is to be able to use single audio recording to capture all these different characteristics of different material and different audio sounds. So when we create a virtual world like this one, you can automatically have sound generated just based on the interaction of these objects. Everything you heard here is automatically generated and synthesized based on the computer simulation and the interaction between between objects. So you're gonna ask, why do I care? Well, one thing, if your kids like playing musical instrument, you can actually recreate many different kind of virtual instrument. What this have is a multi-touch tabletops. And we actually created a virtual xylophone on these multi-touch tabletop. There was a projection of a xylophone being projected from below by a camera. And that little mallet that was used, it's nothing else but a fondue stick with a cat's toy stick to the top. So, pretty cool, huh? You can do more, of course. You can actually also play drums on the same tabletop. So the power of virtual reality is to enable you to be creative, to create on the fly, to do all kind of fun stuff, not just serious stuff, but actually fun stuff. Now, you can also have two of them play together.
Our system handles a large number of touches, sound synthesis, and acoustic simulation for multiple sounding bodies, all in real time. This makes it ideal for musical pieces played by multiple users.
So unless there are two graduate students who never have proper musical training. Okay, now I want to say, sort of as a way of kind of closing to the end, that VR doesn't have to live in very, very huge, big, immersive space. It can also live on your mobile devices. This is a VR system that we kind of created, run on just a palm top. the user can create the instrument, they can play it on the fly. They can specify their material, they can specify the shape, and this is the power of VR. So I want to end right here and say, you know, the future is unlimited. Universe is the limit. All right, I want to thank some of my collaborators and contributor and my graduate students and who have worked on many of these projects that you've seen, and of course all the very generous supporter who paid the bill. And I will just end right here.